So I get picked up on these tickets that I threw out here. Just kind of knew my risk. And I'm not in very many K right now, probably about 40K. About to cash out of some of this stuff. So we could have overfilled it, got stopped out. We could have underfilled it and undertraded it. And to me, that's as bad as overtrading because the idea is to get the envelope, the sweet spot of the frequency of the trade. But I do like the 4 hour trade. I do like the while you're sleeping, the market makes an outrageous move, either up or down. We also could have, I did put some sells in my anger. Last night I put the dailies up there, so I know they're still up there, and I got the other ones down below all day long. That I just said, well, I'm just going to put a crop in because when the market starts to heat up like that, now the trick is to put the tickets deep, very deep, and very far away when the market's screaming down. It's just you can't. Also, you're timing it to get these tickets to be spaced, and I'm going to turn on the exits here so we can see how we're just about to cash out. Now we could move up the targets. And if you think you've reached your halfway out mark, where you scaled out a half of the position, just a guarantee, and this is the no lose kind of theory that, oh, I can't lose in this trade because I've moved my stops at break even to manage the trade bullshit. Of course. Or is there's the I want the precise entry. I'll worry about the exit later. Just get me in. I can move my stop every 5 pips. There's everything from trading 5 standard lots all day long with a 8 pip stop or a 12 pip stop, and you're like, you're going to get hit. You're going to get nicked. I mean, the market's going to just be like, for whatever reason, it's too quiet. So the more quiet it is, the more violent the move is out of the quiet part. Because the quiet part set up a, whether you want to call it a wall or a ceiling or a floor or a void or a trend line or a pivot. It doesn't matter. What are you doing with that pivot? Does that mean that I should do this because it crossed the line? Or does that have to cross back and then do this and then that? Okay, if that's all needed for you to do it, I guess you better be trading really big. But then, of course, if you put a $3,000 stop literally on a trade, like if you said, well, I know this trade's going to make at least 10 grand, I'll put a $3,000 stop on this trade. Is there any way that you can find a better? No, this would also presuppose that you got so much money that it's like you just you don't care. I think with that, just have to say you don't care. Oh, here's my exits. I'm gonna take profits, but that's on tickets that haven't filled. So another thing with when you're looking at all these tickets like this, the only take profits I think that are set up to take are these. And I got wait, so this trade here we could make $300. We're up $200 I think from because I think it was at 24. Maybe it was at 25, so I'm up $100 or something like that. I'm not in that. Like I said, it's not a big position, and this is going to make $3, so that's 35 pips. And I know that there's a 40 pip winner because I know exactly I set that to 40, but I kind of on some of those I actually have the pips listed. So if you look at the latest, I don't know, these are called grid drops or limit drops. So this is like a whole bank of tickets here. This is going to be a 10K spread over 30 pips. And that's not a realistic number. This is more realistic here that you're actually going to risk $43 to make 37 if that whole scenario plays out. In other words, the market has to plunge into wherever you drop this. So I'm dropping it on this rooftop here. Now I could that's that's every pip for, I'm not every pip. It's like every 3 pips, right? So 10K spread across 30 pips. Now this one here is a broader based one. 40 pips, this is the most giant swing trade script where you're saying here, oh, I'm going to canvas this whole area here because anything above this, like if we blow out this ticket, of course, the stop for this rack is right there. And that's quite a healthy stop. I mean, you're saying, well, it's going to come up here, and this is the end of the world stop, really. But then you'd say, well, why get stopped out and have to rebuy the spread and the commissions if I'm just really going to swing trade that? It's not a very big position. I mean, there's you can just there's so many angles to money management in this way because I can say for the next 24 hours, I will sell from here on up, even if they blow out that first bank. Because this trade will be perfect. Look how it just lined right up on the top. So this is my like a geometric or a logarithmic scenario where all day long, and I don't think this is going to fill, but this is 80 pips stop to make 80 pips is roughly, it's more like $42 to make only 38. But if I started selling right here, right now you'd have to have the market come all the way up and all the way back to 80 pips swing. It's got to come up into this thing and all the way back. Are you really going to wait for that trade? I think you could just put that on and close the books. In fact, you might as well just let that last all week. At that point, you're going to say, well, why don't you just put that in for all week? Look at how on the daily. So when you're looking at time frames, when you look at the 4-hour, you're like, huh. Yeah, that looks like a good trade, I guess. Depends how you can frame it, how you compress the data here. Yeah, those are 50 pips on those big dark lines. So, boy, the trade worked out great here, though. I mean, now this almost looks like one ticket. When you start to compress the data, you're like, wow, dude, I don't even see the trade anymore. This is a big psychological issue is that you think this is in an uptrend and you're going to ignore all the trades in here. This is a 4-hour chart. Dude, this trade lasted 4 hours. I guarantee you it did because I can see the open. I can see the close here. Then the market opens, and this is what clearing liquidity or whatever you would call it. Once you take out this lonely wick and you sweep that area, it's like, is there an optimal entry there? No, I see a window of 25 pips here, maybe 30 pips. We're supposed to get a little update here, how many pips that is. That's like 25 pip window, 30. And you wouldn't get filled necessarily on this first thing if the spread's really wide. And it's kind of wide, Okay, so it's 1.5 to 2 pip spread here, and this is London's already opened. It's 4 in the morning, so you kind of missed that. This is if you're sleeping, or this is Asia smashdown. So if we go to the Asian, the 1 hour, you can see the breakout coming out of the day there. So here's the Asian kind of freak out wick. So I don't know if this is a spread issue with this broker because this broker has really bad spreads in Asia. So here, this could be a fake price. In other words, it never changed. But here, this looks like a real price. It's actually closed down here. So I'm thinking that if that's 4 hours from that breakout straight down, that's a legitimate trade. It's not a impossibility. And these are real things that happen. Sure, they happen. And you could make all sorts of claims about, well, I mean, you could build a 4 hour breakout bot that's looking for a candle that's, like I said, if you ever did it, you'd have to have 10 breakout bots. There'd be one that's going to get out, break even, one's going to get out for the big money, one's going to get out for the medium money. Also, you'd have the robot come in and trail a stop in this whole pack of breakout. You would have a robot come in and shore this up and run a 10 pip trailing stop just because the idea is you're not going to trade that. But if you could trade this, and this is a real price, and it looks like it could be, because here's the close, and then here market opens, but we don't know. This could have been the first kind of smash, and then it wasn't until they retested this Asian prices. And all they had to do, in my opinion, was you have to take out this void here. This is the critical piece of the puzzle. Is it's going sideways. And some people are looking at this in terms of, well, okay, well, we all know this tired saw about bottoms become tops. So this bottom becomes a triple top actually on close. And you're banging on that. You just keep banging on that price. Are you taking those trades is the question. Are you really going to be that agile? And the spread's kind of against you, right? You're just trying to make like 8 pips. You got that kind of rhythm, and then here the big payoff is, the sleeper cell, the orders that you have sitting in everything below this wick here. That is the trade. That is the trade that you don't have to babysit. And you've got your targets of 25 to 30 pips. This is like, I'm not going to put a limit. I'm going to say I want to take 5 pips for sure. Because if the spread's 2 and I make 5, I'm making 3 pips. There's a higher probability I'll make those 3. So if I take 3, or just take even amounts, or odd, so you're 2 pips apart, right? You're taking 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And the very first part of that burst, that trade, when that market crashes into that blue zone there at that 50-yard line, or right around the 50, so I wouldn't want to pick. This is the problem with picking one price. Why would you do that? Why would you think that you could pick? It's so silly. You just kind of have to, you don't know which house is going to be the best room to do something in. So why would you just have, but if you just have one room, then you have to section it up, don't you? Don't you have stuff different places? And at this point, I could cash out right now and say, yeah, I'm in the seller's window right now. What the fuck? Right? So as soon as we came to here, we could see the sellers just came off this right now. It's Wednesday. It's the end so the stocks are, I think the dollar is reached everything's kind of climaxed out. So it's obvious that Trump's going to win. So you could make these arguments that, stocks are done because everything's kind of, supposedly stocks are looking down the road. So you're going to win. And we're going to go back to business as usual. And there's a bunch of opportunities to rebuild stuff, and people are going to make a lot of money from the voids that are left behind from the virus and the spoiled brats that are trouncing around the streets and just burning shit. And I guess nobody gives a fuck, so because that's insured, let it go. And I know everybody's horrified, but did you expect anything different from people that... I'm reading the articles by USA Today, and I'm thinking the people that write these articles, I'm like, wow, really? I mean, it's such a bubble. It's such a weird, distorted view of... it almost reminds me of somebody talking about a 1-minute chart when you'd have to ask yourself, Did you put a buy stop above that hammer on the 1 minute chart? Now, I thought, well, of course, logical choice there for the breakout of the hammer to the north side is put a buy stop 1 pip above or 1 tick above the 1 minute, or I'd say the 30-second hammer, because the 1 minute hammer is, okay, if I see two 30-second hammers, I'm in to that trade. But something's up, right? Rejection of price. But if you traded the candlesticks on the dailies, can imagine you see like 3 dojis on any instrument in the world, anything really in the world, crude oil, whatever it is, it's going flatline. I'm like, my God. Now that's an opportunity. I'm sure the option traders are just sitting there going, oh man, look at this thing. This is going to be a gold mine. And then there's also the people that have limits on either side in the wall, the ceiling, and they're waiting for it to come spike into there, right? Spike right into my rack, retrace, I'm out. Trade's over for me. Now you may perceive clouds and then watching the ICT guy break out that fib tool in the end cracks me up every time. Like for the guy that's like, well, this retail bullshit, and then he gets out the fib tool. I'm like, okay. You just lost. You should call Robinacci. You guys could have a cup of coffee together. But I get it. If that's your security blankie and you need that to trade, okay, I gotcha. And that's true, because if that's what makes you feel good, drawing all those crazy zigzag lines. And here, I can see the sellers. We could have got out there. See that? And somebody got short there. And they're up on that trade. I guarantee you that somebody could have said to themselves, well, it looks like a supply zone up there. Or they could just say, you know what? I'm going to sell 5 pips north. I don't give a fuck. Another thing you'll notice is if you just throw a trade out there, like say you just put a buy limit in for no apparent reason, 10 pips deep. Now, I've done this many times. You'd be surprised. If you space them based on the ATR, like the daily true range, like say the market moves 200 pips a day, you throw a rack out there that's like, you could throw it in like literally 10 pips. Every 10 pips, you're buying a 1K. You'd be surprised. Now, here I put in dense orders. When I did this before I went to sleep, I came in really dense on this one. So these tickets, and another thing is that if you do a screen capture of this, now these never filled down here. And these lasted all day long. So I was looking for the end of the world on this one. Didn't get filled. This is the thing. In this kind of a random, this is the euro versus yen, which is pretty spicy. I must say these wicks are like, this is a 25 pip wick here, so you'd really do pretty well here to buy that window and cash out just to there. So if you imagine putting in you're running 20 pip stops to 40 pip stops because you don't want to get stopped out of these trades, but the probability of you cashing out logically is pretty good here, and you could just rinse and repeat this area over again. But the thing is that you would have to do that because they never make a new low. If you just put a bunch of pendings in 25 pips apart, so here you'd have like a 8K. I know it seems kind of silly if you're used to trading a standard lot. But imagine they fill all these tickets. Right now you're long waiting for it to come back to this floor. Like I said, on the pound, that could happen. On the pound, that could happen. So here's the pound trade. Now, I don't know if I cashed out on this, but this is the racks I put in last night. You can see they haven't filled down here. So what I could have done was, and this is another reason why trading more than one currency pair is really kind of impossible for me, because if I looked at this, I'd be like, oh, fuck. Should have got out. I mean, I should have. And see, this is where your targets have to be set at 20 pips here, because this thing came down just like I hoped it would. It never came down to here, though. And these buy limits haven't filled yet. So these are, if I do go flat here, take all my profits. Or is this position so small that now I'm going to do this. Now this is going to, so you talk about managing a trade. This is managing the size of all the trades. All day long, I'm going to put a buy limit here. Now I don't even have to touch this all day. 24 hours, I'm going to buy right there. Because I'm not in big enough. I don't think I'm in big enough on this trade. And I do think we could take out this. Now this would be the other consideration. Do you think we're going to come up here and hit these sell limits I put up here, I think, or no? Those targets, no. Maybe those are sell limits that already dissolved, okay? So we never got, they expired. We never got filled on that. But all day long, would I buy down here? And then here's another, would I buy here? Oh, I sure would. If I was never in this market, even right now. Oh, so that's the other question. Would you do this trade now if you weren't in any other trades? And if the answer is yes, then it's going to be how big are you in the other trades? But let's assume we cashed out of this thing. I don't know if we did. And that's another thing. You're going to bring this up the platform? Are you going to look for it? Oh my God, look at this thing. We're only up $16 now, right? We were up 40 now. We could have cashed out. I could have found my biggest winner, and we were looking for 40 pips here. We only had 35. We were too greedy on the target. This is the half-hour chart, though, and the London just opened. So it's like Spazville. And when this happens, most people have gotten out of their scalp. And if we would have had a 25 pip target on a bigger position, we'd be out right there at this level. Right? That's the floor we fall through. And just over and over again, these same situations. So for me, if I'm thinking, well, this could come back and be a double bottom or go lower, I'm willing to buy this whole thing now for the rest of the day. I would just set it and forget it. I'd be like, here's 30 pips stop to make 20. And this is a better trade, even though you're risking more. 30 pips stop to make 20. So $18 to make $12. Risk 18 to make 12, roughly. All day long. Now I would say that's kind of ridiculous. I don't think we're coming down here today. I could be wrong, but looking at the half-hour chart, that's another thing with the momentum and these structures, and this is the British pound, for God's sakes, people. So, but this can move. That's 25 pips from here to here, and that's quite a nice chunk. It doesn't have any respect necessarily for this 50, although it bounced off the 50. You can make all these arguments, but then again, I could have cashed out there, right? Or am I going to hold for the full tilt auction where we go and engulf this part today? So I guess I am going for that trade because it's the half-hour chart and I'm looking at the bigger picture. Come up into this thing and then cash out and just go flat. And then if that's the case, I'm going to come back in with limits here. So I can already see the next trade. Or I cash out here. I have another chance to get out where I could have got out before and go flat here. Now this all depends on how much money do I want to make or expose myself to losing my profits, right? Because here I'm up $3 on this ticket. I know it sounds like much to people, but you put about 1,000 of those in there, all of a sudden it's $3,000. So 200 of these tickets would be nice. That would all been a dollar risk. So I'm actually up on everything. I'm only up a few cents here on my worst pound ticket. It looks like I'm only in the pound. Wait. Yeah, so I guess I got out of that. Oh, wait, I got one in here. This guy. So I'm going to take this one ticket off. It's annoying me. So this way, when I look at the pound, I'll understand why the equity is doing what it's doing. That's another big problem with commingling instruments. So here I'm not in a very big position. It's like 30K now. Pound only. Now I can work this pound. I can say, you know what, let's load up here. So you have to trade around position. I do. I don't want to hold a singularity. I don't want to be like, well, this thing's coming to retrace and I got fucking $3,000 on this trade. It's just too nerve wracking. I mean, I just don't need to risk $3,000 per trade, even if I think I'm right. It feels weird to. I don't think you're. I mean, hopefully the drawdowns on that trade are only going to be $500. But if you put it under the world stop, it's like not having a stop, I think. So right there, I had another chance to get out. See how that was? I could have got out. If I go to the 5-minute chart at this point, then I can do the. I can say, well, you'd have to pull the trigger, on the 5. So this is the hole we're coming up into. This is a more of a smaller fractal version of these little auctions. So here the auctions are kind of like the engulf happens in a different manner on the 5, because when you make this new low, right? So I'm buying here on limits. And then if I put a lot of buy limits here, and then if they actually pick me up, once it takes this out, to me, that's the engulf. So it came down and it comes there, and then big sellers here into this low, right? Big sellers for that, and then the pressure's off, and that's the trade. Like, so here's the floor. You're trapped under that floor on the 5-minute. Hopefully you're buying here. Hopefully you're long on limits on something. You put some kind of hodgepodge stuff in here. And you could add same thing on the north side. You could add sell limits up there that never filled. I think once you get used to trading like that, you can still trade at the market. You could even trade RSI in here, because I'm sure there's divergence here. I'm sure here's the reversal. Like, this is more oversold at a higher price than here. This isn't really a sell-off, but here's a bottom becomes a top on the 5. Pull the trigger, right? 5-minute chart, boom. You're in really big. You got a tight stop, 3 pips. You just made $300. It's 3 standard lots. Make your 10 pips, whatever this. There's probably not a lot of pips here. I would look at this in terms of, okay, what am I doing here on the 15? Like, if you slice it too thin, I mean, these are obvious trades. Like, people are buying that pullback, but I would just say, if I'm in it, I'm looking at that saying, I'd buy there, so I'm holding. It's a hold for the guy that's swing trading, because he's looking at the 30-minute chart. He's saying, how long are we going to stay under this 30-minute floor here? Can we really hold underneath here? Or is this not the most ridiculous price you've ever seen in the pound? Like, really going to hold below the floor? So if you're going to buy here, or are you going to put a buy stop here? Or are you going to put a buy limit here? So I'm going to say, I'm put buy limits here. We still got all kinds of time before U.S. markets open. And they're probably going to retrace. Stock market sell-off, to me, is done for the moment. There'll be a little bit of a comeback to fair value. And the guy was saying at the Paradise thing, when the market was dropping like this, he said it was irrational. So it's irrational because it's mind-blowing. It's not that the pound can really go up and down pretty severely. I mean, just severe. I mean, this thing is pip-wise compared to the euro or anything else. So be very careful with the pound, as far as if you're used to trading something like the euro or the Swiss franc. These things just don't have, now that the euro versus the yen, and these things that have brutal spreads, they move brutally, but it's a swing trade. Okay, so we got 25 seconds here before the bottom of the hour. Half-hour chart's going to update now, and looks to me like a keeper. But not to get too fancy and start trying to sell above this thing. That's going to, what's going to happen there is that, to me, it's a little disorientating to trade both directions like that, especially if I'm thinking, okay, this is the half-hour chart. We just got this doji here. Now the seller should come in there. Anybody that thinks that's a double bottom becoming a top for more downside. And the 1 hour chart hasn't updated yet. When you look at the 1 hour chart, you have to say things like, "Oof, I don't know about that." That looks like. Is it worth it to sell here to make 20 pips, or should I buy like this? And here I'm going to put in, since that was a daily, that's a lot of risk to have all day. So I'm going to put in. So if I'm going to sit here in the morning and drink coffee, I'm going to put in 4 hour tickets. Or if I'm going to take a nap, I'm going to put 4 hour tickets in. Let them cook here. So I wrote some like 4 hour dense orders. So this is like a bullfighting technique here. If you put this rack here of 17 pip stop to make 23, pretty tight stop. I figured $12 to make $12. This is 4 hours. This is a 6K spread over 10 pips. And you gotta be careful when you get it here, because if you put it just above the ask, it'll become sells. So this is a great confidence feeling in builder to keep doing this ticket, because I'm like, oh, dude, 4 hours? Can you make it down here 4 hours? I don't think so. So, because you're creating your own auction here. 6 hour auction here. Should probably make some of these. Okay, here's an 8 hour one. 15 pip range, but I got to put a wider stop because we're trading the pound. So, and that's what I'm going to put. If I put more below here, it makes more sense, because then when everybody's shitting their pants down here and they're like, "Oh no, it's no more toilet paper," I'll be buying down here, right? And this is always good buying. And I agree with that guy from Paradise. That's always a good place to buy, of course. Absolutely. So I would take Paradise over ICT in the, yeah, because I mean, so the Paradise guy, he's got this, really slick, here's my charts and all this stuff. But, it really does come down to this. Okay, is this trade getting a little past my, risk level? And he's determining it on these kind of things that I don't agree with, because they're so canned. It's like, well, if I'm down 2%, then we just call it a day. I'm like, not me, give me that fucker. Hey, throw some money in the account. This looks like a great fucking trade. Now, you've got to have the money to step up to the plate. So if you can have this situation where you trade lightly when the market's on fire, and you trade heavy when it's not, and when it takes off, you're on that ride. Like you're either going to accumulate in this kind of weird market's going sideways, but it's either going to continue or it's going to retrace. I mean, there's only two things it can do. It can't go sideways forever. So if you can build a position in that, and you got those tickets. So here I'm going severely long. I'm already up, but that doesn't matter whether I'm up or not on the trade. The question is, what is the next trade? There's nothing we can do about what happened either on these charts. So you kind of just have to say, well, what's the next fucking thing? Now, if you want to be a seller because you say, well, it's in a downtrend, so I'm only looking to sell. I gotcha. Then put sell limits above here, but I'd be damn careful, because when there's this short squeeze, and this is the 4 hour pound, by the way. Now, I know these markets, people say, what do you do when the market's doing this? Well, I think you could have jumped on the 4 hour train here. And I mean, this, there's only one chance to do it here, and you would have had to be there and all that, You take out this low, and there's a rally on the 4 hour into that low, and then bye-bye. And then here, the flat lines. So if you bought this with 100 pips stop, you're in the market. So you could say the best trader is going to be where you're just your own prop firm. You got a guy that trades with 100 pip stops and a guy that trades with 10 pip stops. There's two people in the room. There's a whole spectrum in between. And the trick is to fit your stop to what the market's saying. Well, I'm probably going to need a 300 pip stop because I'm out of my fucking mind. to the upper downside. And then you got to say, well, I can't risk more than, in my case, it's going to be 0.0001%. It's like the amount of people that died from corona amount. And it's just, that's it. And I'm not going for this all in shit. Look at this pound. Now look at this thing. You just get a load of this move here. If you look at the tippy top of this mountain, it's just an incredible. Now there's plenty of places with whatever have you algorithms. I don't know if you see an order block in there, but man, this is just like your epic bull move, bull, bear. It just goes pure bear. I mean, look at this climax here in the middle. End of the month, go figure. So Wednesday, end of the month on a Wednesday. But yeah, so the swap rolls over there. But even if you knew all that, still all that aside, is that did you sell up into that? I gotta wonder. Now, it's certainly if you don't mind trading with a 300 pips stop, yeah, you could have started selling here and survived the whole thing. You know, it's 200 pips to here, that's 200. Are you selling? Now, there are people that are selling this thing, and they're probably going to make some money. I don't know. They might make 20 pips here. Would you sell here? It could still tank. I mean, actually, it looks pretty ferociously like it's going to just keep pounding down. But see what it looks like, and this is what your decisions are going to be on how you're going to trade that. Now, the sad thing about it is that if you're just looking for this, like, so what I try to do is just look at, I don't want to look at all this and say, oh, it's in a downtrend, I got to be selling. I just want to look at this part here, because since I'm not trying to make 500 pips today, I'm going to say, I'm trying to make like 50 pips. What does that look like? Okay, so there's about 100 pips. And you have to say things like, well, okay, that is the 4-hour chart. All right, let me take a look at this. So this is what you need to do. I think I need to do. I go, wow, that's 4-hour chart. Shit. I scalped that wick. You think we could go down there again? Go to the 5-minute chart. Oh boy, that's a whole different story, isn't it? Now, when you have the scale fixed, you're able to go to these time frames, and if you look at the daily, you're like, holy shit. Now, I'd have to say that anybody that started buying below here, and this is just kind of a rule of looking back at these wicks, anybody that bought below here and was able to capture some of that, and then they cashed out, you're right where you got in here. Like you could go flat on that last ticket and take the loss of the spread right now. You could say, you know what? I bought this whole thing. I cashed out to the floor. Let it go. Or are you going to be the guy that thinks this is a pullback? And if just not necessarily a uptrend, but just like this is I think this is where people really have a problem, because there's these other cliche laws like, well, if the market's down 5% and 1/4 of 5 hairs of a donut, then it's a bear market. Okay, but won't there be a counter move? You really think people are going to tolerate all these brats in the streets without somebody going to start taking bullets in the head? And that'll calm it down. I'm surprised we haven't done that yet. Mark me down for that. I want to see that. Let's see some bullets and some heads, people. Come on board. So all my take profits are right up under here. I could say, look at this. Now, on the dailies, I'm telling you, this is a whole different view. And what do you think? No nonsense. Did he sell up here in a reversal? He probably went long here. I don't know. So here's actually a trend trade. Pull back, get in with a tight stop. I mean, you don't need an algo for that, do you? Does you now? Look at this thing dojiing out and then rip. And once it got above here, holy mackerel. We probably could come back to here. Now, people probably are waiting to buy here, but what if they don't get it? So this is why I decided to scale in and out, because what if I never get my premium Gartley entry? I've got a fib handle down here. We should get to here. I'm not going to buy until we get to here. And it turns out that after 3 days of punishment, and once we got below here, we know that, wow, that was some liquidity shit there. And now we are expecting a move to here on the dailies. So we're looking to make 50 pips. 70 pips if we bought below that 50 handle, and we could just sit here and wait for it to retrace. Or is it going to keep tanking? And of course, it all comes back to how much money you got in the account there. But yeah, that is a brutal pullback. Now the weekly looks a little bit more like, holy shit, who's trading the week? I mean, look at this weekly chart. My God, man. You know, when you look at it from this standpoint, and you talk about pips, you just have to ask yourself, what in the wild? Is this 80% market ranging, or is it just me? You know, you could say there's a trend in there. I'm going to call this one. It's my favorite trend on this chart. You sell here, and this is like, here's the order block. And then you hold that for 2 weeks and you're like, yeah, I'm out. Okay, I'm waiting for next year's trade. Now, granted, you know, to me, this looks like buy city. Is this just dropping? I mean, there's got to be a million scalps out of that. Who's the brave soul that came in and started buying below here? Oh, that was beautiful. And then you come back to here, people kind of cash out. People definitely cash out when it comes back to this congestion. But had you bought this whole thing here and held it, and you go, oh, dude, we're going to take out these highs. It's going to go full auction. So it's going to literally trap this guy that trades breakouts this way and trap this guy that trades up breakouts that way. So you're trapping the other traders like you're so clever, you know. It doesn't matter, because if you're going to be the guy buying this pullback because it's been down for 2 weeks and you're like, oh, I'm getting, it's oversold. RSI says it's oversold, and I have a 11 period EMA because I built a robot like that. And I buy pullbacks. You're buying right now. You're buying the pound right now, and if you're smart, you're going to scale into it, and then you are going to go to the daily chart. And as soon as you go to the daily chart, I don't think anybody's getting in here on a Fibonacci and holding it till here. That's all I'm saying. I don't think there's a guy, because if you got in here and you put a stop here, look how they came and stopped you out. Ain't that a bitch? Like, they just came back there and just like, yeah, I know you thought you owned that restaurant, but did you notice there's a license for you to practice? You don't own that. So it's not the Obama, you didn't build that. It's more like, you don't own that. We've regulated that shit to death. How about you go home and eat? And I say, thank you, I will. Fuck you and your mass bullshit. I'm just gonna stay home. Thank you very much. I've been doing that my whole life, so I'm finding it to be not much of a shift of lifestyle. But yeah, you can drive around in your curb and making cars. I mean, and the fact that these morons are out there burning shit. Do you know that you're burning oxygen? I don't know. I don't think they're really that. They're not nature woke, you know. So they're unwoke on the nature topic. When you look at the market like this will kind of like tame your idea of like technical analysis. Because this is just talking pips here. And now I think this is going to be what I would say is the hardest thing is to look at the market for what it really is. It's just a total mess. This is the 30 minutes. So we're waiting for, the 15 minutes just updated. Oh, I would buy right there at the market because it's down in the 15. So the sellers came in here on the clock and they got that scalp off, that trade off there. But at the same time, we just backfilled into the supply zone here, and the limit guys bought that. And I think I might have got picked up on one ticket, added to my position. So I would say, if you're gonna, you can step into the market on pure limits, which is a very planned trade. It's a little bit more unexciting because it's not like you're shooting something. It's more like you're placing traps. But, trading at the market is gratifying, but I would do that on a demo account. So if you like to pull the trigger and shoot stuff, it's better to just lay traps, right? So you just say stuff like, call us when you want us to bail you out of your dumb shit cities that you built, your facades with your. When are they going to start taking down these strip malls with the fucking facades? I like how they're so cheap. Well, what we'll do is, this is what they do in the suburbs. They put up a structure, can't get it started. Then a starter strip mall, and then they come back a few years later and they dress it up with this like Western facade where it looks good from the front, from the side, it doesn't exist, and from the back it's just a warehouse. But we could have put a good face on it, like a facelift for a strip mall. And then you got the parking lot that we don't spend money on that, so we just pour blacktop on top of blacktop matters, and we put that on top of the mud and clay and whatever. And then it turns into potholes later, and then you can just lose your front end. But put on your mask, would you? And it's about time. I guess you have to be thankful for Corona and the riots, because the riots are showing that you really have you really have wimpy people. Like, why aren't these business owners sitting with a fucking Uzi on their front lawn? And they're embracing Black Lives. They're like cheering them on. Well, you know what? You deserve to have your shit burned. And if you're going to be dumb enough to fight with police, you deserve to have 7 shots shot at you, 4 in your fucking back. You can't. Go eat your Brussels sprouts. Cry me a river, bitch. So I have no sympathy for anybody anywhere, but only for, I have sympathy for the market. I have sympathy for British pound because it's being obliterated. Doesn't anybody care about the pound? Come on. Where's the support? Where's the love? 1,000 points of light. Good old days. But yeah, what a media intense. And then Facebook has all these rules and stuff. It's so cute. I see people calling for assassinations on Facebook, and I don't see anybody deleting that shit. I see people calling for bullets in people's heads, and I don't see any of that being deleted on Facebook. I don't know I know which Facebook you've been on. Maybe on the dark Facebook, on the underground Facebook. But what I'm seeing is people just want to lynch. People are putting electric fences around there. So what's going to happen is this little weasel mayor from Portland's he'll probably end up in a underground. He'll be dictating bullshit laws from underground. Hey, it's time sometimes to just start over with a fresh, clean start. Clear the decks there. Hey, you blew up that account. Oh, that city's gone. Okay, you know what? You blew up that micro account. That's all right. It's just like what's the difference between losing $500 in a micro account or putting a $500 stop on a $10,000 account? Is there any difference there? I don't know. Let me think about that. Well, other than the chore of putting money in the account, I don't think so. So what's the diff? Yeah, I don't know. That's got me there. Yeah, when you look at the math, when you look at the Corona deaths, it's so sad. So I remember when that was starting, and then the end of the world was going to happen. That was so cute. Oh gosh, come on. And Yeah, what about that? All that stuff, and you gotta wonder. It's just pure incompetence. I mean, some people think that um, dumb shits like Cuomo that run New York are like intentionally doing that. No, he's just dumb. He's just not. He's not. He also is not. He's not dumb. He's unconscious. He doesn't care. He can't care because he has too much. Like when you get callous, I suppose when you're running the show, he's kind of like Elvis without the drugs. These people are incredible, you know. It's just incredible, and the power they yield, and then the people that handle them. This guy Biden, who he gets, they give him scripts like he's some old movie actor. Here, dude, read this shit. And the media, they're so heartfelt. Oh, they care so much. It's really amazing, but it's just tabloid shit, really. It's like, they got rid of Weekly World News. I was very heartbroken because it was black and white and it had great articles in there. And I thought, man, big print. It was always at the checkout. It was only $1.50. Oh, Bigfoot. Every issue is Bigfoot, Bigfoot, Bigfoot. And there's just something kind of nice about that because at least you knew what you're getting. But I know people that think that, oh, did you hear about? And to this day, I don't watch the CNN, but every time I see a clip of it, I see the Corona countdown on the side of the screen. I keep thinking that's a stock market for some reason. Oh, is this CNBC? Is this FNN? Is Financial News Network? Is this the Bloomberg quotes? And really, I should run some Fibonacci's on that fucking Corona because we're at the 618 easily right now. We're at something. The 512s. We're in the 512s. I like the ICT. His Fibonacci is 78%. He figured out the optimal trade entry. Optimal trade entries. So I wanted to do a video about him using all his language. So I was listening to him, and either he's turned gay or he has been gay, but he's got quite a lisp. And people, had some guy comment about a video I made. I intentionally spoke like that. And maybe I do have a lisp, but I was listening to him. I was like, whoa. Because I thought, yeah, I can see it now. Inner circle, huh? I do think there's a nice setup here on the pound of 15, though. This pullback here, like if you're day trading, like to me, I'm holding it and I'm looking at this as if, okay, what are those guys thinking? I hope they're thinking they're going to take this out. And then I would just go back to sleep. And then I put limits in all over again. Because I would just come in like this and just go, oh, you know what, fuck them. And with the pound, it's going to have to be like this because you'd have to put crops in here. And we know if it comes above this, and I hope these are my cash outs here. If not, I'm going to have to get out manually there. I'm going to manage that trade. So, because, and this is the critical 6 minutes before top of the hour. So the 5-minute traders are ready for their update, and their algos or robots that could easily trade a 5-minute chart. They're going to buy pullbacks. I mean, I guarantee you a 5-minute robot's, if it's got any kind of brains, it's buying pullbacks in what it perceives to be an uptrend on the 5. It's building a position. That particular style robot, which would be a money-making robot. If you say, oh, well, it's up, let's buy big pullbacks. Only buys big pullbacks on the 5-minute. And what you think is an uptrend, but here I'm just holding. But I'm imagining that robot. And of course here I've still got my pendings. I'll buy more automatically as soon as we fall into this hole. And this is about position sizing. It has nothing to do with too much else, right? Because this is going to be more risk, but more reward if we could fall into this pit before the U.S. markets open. Or are we going to skedaddle up here and cash out? Probably we could come to here there's many scenarios. The sellers come in and then we come down here. But am I layered into limits here to build an even bigger position, going against all these people that are selling? I'm really going against people. That's another reason why I like counter trend. I like going against it, right? Because it's like more money on the retrace. Plus, all the againsting that exists. Againsting is a thing. On the 1 hour, it's like that, right? But you know that, like I said before, you know that below here is an abyss. So if you decide to buy into that, if you don't take your 25 pips or even your 10 pips off the table, because when it came into the end of the day today, you could have, like I said, the ultimate way to smooth out the risk and to make money. This is a 1 hour chart. There is a breakout here on this 1 hour bar just before the end of the day, and it falls into Asia. And once you get this cluster here, if you're not going to blind grid by it, you are waiting for it to come and chop into this. Even if it's up here, you still know that is a ripe place to buy. If you were to start buying here, you'd have to buy every 25 pips with a monster stop. And if that's the case, you're obviously, so I'm going to mark that area. So if you bought everything from yesterday's kind of swing low, so when the market was here, when the market was up here at this point, you put in limits here and walked away. So all the way down into this thing you're in. And you're not really getting stopped out of that. These are 100 pip stops, 200 pip stops to make 100 pips. And you go to the daily, you're like, oh, geez, that's so, I can't really see it here. You go to the daily, you're like, okay, well, that's, wow, that's crazy. You go to the weekly, you're like, well, that's not such a bad entry window. I mean, that is a broad, so it's about how big of an area in relationship to how long do you want to be in the trade. So it's really hard to navigate because on the 4 hour here, you're like, oh yeah, that's a nice scalp right to this bottom of that 4 hour bar, that 8 hour floor that goes back. I see that scalp. And you'd be out, As soon as it came back to here, you'd be out. And now it's a question of, well, now what? So you're out to this floor and you've made X. And how do you know you did it? Because you can see on the 15-minute chart it played out, right? It actually overshot that floor. And now it's coming back into my buy limits. And since I'm not in a very big position, and now I just picked up a few more tickets, so that's how that works. And I would let that go. And I actually, so it's top of the hour. And we'll look at the 5-minute chart here. So the 5-minute traders are updating. Half-hour traders, 15-minute. Everybody's going to update right now. So look, I'm getting filled. There you go. I want to buy more of that. Okay, so there's the 5 minutes update. And probably get some follow through down. We'll buy more. Okay, just updated all time frames up to the hour. 15, 30, 1 hour. No, I don't necessarily think it's going to turn on a dime there, but you can get that bounce right at 5 a.m. You can. There's nothing guaranteed. I prefer it to go lower. So if it comes up here, now this is another thing. If I'm up like 150 bucks right now, I'd be like, let's scalp out, come in super tight. And if I don't even think that now, if I think I really like this trade, I'm going to do that 4-hour trade now that I was just doing. Talking about this kind of very short-term auctions to capture. Here it's going to make 32 pips. Come in here 4 hours, and I'm setting the deadline for that to fill. And here I'm just going to get super aggressive. I'm going to double stack those. With these hand placed ones, I can put them way down here in Disneyland now. If this thing can come down here in 4 hours, which means we'll complete another 4-hour bar. Can you imagine that happening? You need some imagination, I suppose, because you got to imagine, could that happen? Now here's a 2-hour ticket. Now these I place right up on the market because I'm saying in 2 hours, could we drop X? This is a 2-hour ticket. 6 tickets, 6K. Now I really get aggressive on these because I'm like, really? Now I know, I can tell you with almost all the certainty of any goober with any cloud system, if I put this ticket down here for 2 hours, there's no way they're going to fill it. But if they do, here's a 10K for 2 hours, 15 pips stop to make 30 pips. You really think they could make it down here in 2 hours? Come on, man. That is in a nutshell my system. I'm asking the market, can you make it down here in 2 hours? I don't think so. You keep stacking this shit up. You think the market could come down here in 2 hours? I'm going to say absolutely not. But if it does, this is where the if then is very powerful. If you could flash crash it to there, I would so buy that. If I put an order in here that lasts 1 month, do you think they're going to fill it? You might as well just buy at the market right now. If that's what you're going to do. So this is the whole fork in the road. How are you getting in the market? Does the trade make sense? You may have Fibonacci's down there. You may have whatever. I'm trading just giant baskets of one case. Because I just think it's just less. I'm down 24 bucks, but I'm not looking at that. I want to get into at least $300 of margin. That's what I'm looking at. How big am I going to get in this trade? I'm buying this pound. And I can go to sleep so I can go to 4, I can put a 4 hour. So what you have available here is if you really wanted to slice it. Now my tablet, I used to have 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour double clicks. So this would just come in like this. Now, if you do that, I want to warn you. You make sure those things, so if you're going to buy for 30 minutes here, make sure it fits the instrument you're trading as far as the volatility, because we could drop down here in 12 hours, So I got some 12-hour tickets here, and I lay all this these tickets out here, and I'm long. So I just doubled my position size right there. And I didn't even I haven't traded at the market on this whole time. I've never pulled the trigger on a trade. Now it's disappointing because I want to kill something. Okay, so here comes the 5 minute. Now to me, this is critical. 6 minutes after the top of the hour, 5 to 6 minutes after the 1 minute charts. They just updated the 5s. We just updated the 5s, and the 1 we're this far into the 1. Did we get that bounce off the 1? Yeah, but we went lower, see? We got a bounce off the 1 hour chart. There we close. We're going to go lower now. Now is this the 618? You know, I understand the Fibonacci bullshit, right? You're going to measure whatever you measure from here to here. If I was using Fibonacci, it'd be swing low to swing high. Okay, this is 618. Get in here. All right. People want to do crazy shit like, well, no, dude, you can attach it over here. Doesn't matter. The whole point of Fibonacci is to buy 61% cheaper than current price. Wherever you perceive your structure of price. It's ridiculous. There's no, I mean, everybody does it different, right? And I'm sure if I put it here, swing low to swing high here, and I go to the 15-minute, some guys got it on the 15. Yeah, it's like this, man. So this is, pound could take out the low here. So this is a prime example here. This is real trading for that goober that was like, well, I don't see you trading it. And I didn't cash out of this. Like I said, I had a chance here to cash out of this thing, and there was a re-chance up here. I could have got out, but I'm like, no, I want to go longer. And I think that I'm looking at the big picture that we're going to retrace, and then the markets are going to calm down. We've had our trap. I think gold's had it. I think it's a big trap on gold. I don't think there's no reason for a gold to go up. If we're in the worst depression of our lives, the ads people run, the kind of shit out there is incredible. Let's see how Bitcoin's doing. So Bitcoin seems to be recovering also. So the pressure's off there, and the Bitcoin front, if you're the 1 hour trader on the Bitcoin, I can see my trade. I would have bought this whole zone here. And it would have scalped something to here and maybe still holding, looking for it to engulf, take out the high of the day. All right. Look at all these beautiful trades here. You got buy limits here, down this order block down here, see? He said I can't see order block or he's going to send me a cease and desist order. Did he say order block? Oh, you don't want to say order block. So see all these, like, fill this thing, and that doesn't do the engulf, and it doesn't make it back to that floor. But boy, it looks like we're going to tip in the window here. So yeah, it looks like the dollar's going to give back today, and we're going to wrap up the week here into like the healing game for the markets, I suppose. Oh, this looks like it's ready to crash, though. Look at this poor thing. It's a different story here, isn't it? Of course, I guess this is at support. This looks like it's going to fall into the abyss. Now, this is another one. Are you going to stand in front of this thing? I'd be very careful. So the euro is about to collapse. But so for me, it's like this. Let's buy that goddamn thing down here. So the euro, you can get by with a lot of really, it's a 100 pip grid there, but you can get it by with a lot of, it doesn't move that much. Now on this chart, since I didn't rescale it, I'm just going to zoom in. Almost the same thing. The problem with you zoom in like this, another big problem with looking at the market. If you looked at it like this, you'd think, oh, well, that looks like the bottom, but zoom out one level, and then you have to start thinking in terms of this giant hole down here. And this would be a nice set and forget it. Like I said, on Sunday nights, you could drop weekly grids and see how you're doing at the end of the week. You don't have to scalp in giant positions. So my broadest coverage is this 45 pips, a 10K, 8 hours. That's not going to last long enough, but we'll just do it anyways. So those tickets there, I might get stopped out of that position, but here would be how I'd put them up for like the whole week in here. And right, this is set and forget it trading. You know the risk. You're risking $10 to make $20 there. It seems funny, but that's a really ridiculous trade. But hey. Right, it's gonna inside there. It's gonna buy every on a 40 pip window. Let's put a 5K in, so it looks like this. And then it's gonna stop down if it goes past, but it's logarithmic, so it kind of martingales in. Now you could keep layering these up like this, so you know that you're risking $40. But this is just a convenience. This is a labor-saving device, is what this is. I know I want to buy down there. I want to buy more down here, so these logarithmic spaced ones with big fat 80 pip stops. You ain't stopping me out of that, bitch. This one's got an 80 pip stop at the bottom of this last ticket here. It's like, I don't think you're going to stop me out of that. 8 hours. I don't think so. Luckily, this broker lets me put in an immense amount of tickets. The other beauty about the limit orders, if the spread should tighten up as you're crashing down into this shit, you're going to get the better fill because the bid and the ask are like, if they ever come together, which they do on some accounts. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the biggest coverage: 50 pips, a 10K in a 50 pip window. Linear though means every 5 pips. There's a ticket there. There's a 10K. I mean, you can get some serious size going. Now that's a 10 pip stop. You're only risking $10 on that. Believe it or not, tend to make 20. But you're not gonna. That's never gonna happen, right? Because if it comes down through this whole series, it's gonna blow out those tickets, and it's never gonna make 20. So I don't know any other way to describe that, I guess, because you don't. I mean, this is the worst case scenario is the $10 stop out, but the 20 you'll never make. Now, if you bought a 1K here with a a $10 stop on it, that'd be different. 100 pip stop on each ticket. But then all of a sudden, you're talking real money. So here's the 80 pip stop. You could risk 40. You can make 30. You could make 30. You could make less than 30 and risk less than 40. But on this, where you have a 10 pip stop and you're buying every... Right, it's kind of silly. But I don't think I'd trade that. But I wrote it, I guess, to experiment on it and just say, oh, well, technically it's low risk there. I like this 3K in a 20 pip window because you can really stack a lot of that up. Now, I could have bought that at the market on the 5 minute. The 15 minute is about to update. So it means the last 15 minutes, the top of the hour, you should have bought. So the time is a big deal in these markets too. Look, if you would have bought the 5 a.m. without a stop, in 1 hour we may take out this, right? Do you want that trade? Is that an easy trade? But I bought here and I put a stop too tight, and god damn it. And so, but look at that. 5 minutes after the top of the hour is going to be 3 bars back here. In 20 seconds, it'll be 3 bars back. So here, 2 bars back. See this, and look at this little vacuum on the top side forming there. So there you go. That is the top of the hour. So that's 5 a.m. and then this is 5 minutes after 5 a.m. and 6 minutes after, and then just a little bit lower, and then boom. So I suspect that if you go to the 1 minute chart, you see this little candle here. So that's 6 minutes after the top of the hour. You get that cute little hammer, and then you're off. And this is the logical exit. So that trade's over. If you want to be in the market for 2 minutes, that's it. Boom, you're out. That's it. And you could have done that trade. You could have sat there and stalked the market all morning for this shit. Or you're on the 5 and you just got buy limits sitting below this. I would say this is the lonely wick and you bought this, right? But like I said, I'm holding for the big retracement into, if we take out the high of the day, I'm out on everything. And then we wait for Asia and we do a rinse and repeat. There's no way to really solve the problem that other than building a robot that you think is going to be able to do this stuff. Here's the 5. So now the 15-minute chart just updated. The sellers are supposed to come in here, will they? Right, this is the bottom becoming a top, right? It's supposed to go keep tanking. It's a bear market, don't forget. Don't forget your biases, you know. When are yellow lives going to matter? And red lives and green lives and blue lives? Oh, I'm sorry. You can't know blue lives. And the sellers do come in. Look at that. So there's a trade for everybody here. Picked up a few more K. I might be careful I don't have any pendings out there from other insane trades I have probably pending, really. I do have other. I got this one here. I'll buy this if it plunges today. So just rack upon rack of tickets. Here, 36 pip window. Just let it go. Nothing you can do is going to change that. The dollar's screaming back here, but see here, we're coming back to the exit now. Most people are going to cash out there. I think they already have, right? This is the weekly. Dollar Swiss. So here's the thing. I think that the dollar Swiss, everybody I think would think this. That's the support that all the bulls are dreaming. Oh, it's going to hit there and then it's going to just kind of just go like this. But I would be thinking, for me, I got buy limits sitting here. I can just see my trade always. Very easy to see my trade. And sell limits probably above here. But I think if I did put sell limits in here, they have to have very shallow targets. You got to be able to make those 10, 20, 15 pips and be able to get out of it and snatch it. Because once they hit that, and then there's more probability for more of this. Get that Hana Forex move going, where it's just like off the charts. You're like, and this is supposed to be where people are selling. You know, hey, it's going to keep doing this. But look at all the money being made on this nonsense. You know, like I said, this is 80% of the market, 20% trend, 80% bullshit, 80% bullshit. If you trade the bullshit, you can really make a lot of money. It's like junk bonds. Let's see how our old friend gold's doing. Kind of getting fragile here. You know, this was the big breakout. This is the big historical thing, and we got a triangle now. An Elliott wave, which is not. It's more. Elliott wave really is more about. Like this is wave 4. This is a wedge. It's more about the psychology of that, where you know what, volatility is drying up. That's the daily chart. And there's plenty of scalps on this daily. You could have done the same rinse and repeat. You're buying new lows. Cash out. Sell new highs, cash out. Whether it's a day by day or you're going to hold that for a long time. Lonely wick. A lot of buyers down here. Buyers on the way to there. This is 1800. A lot of buyers here. Sure, it could go higher, but I think we might just be ahead of ourselves. And to me, I don't think this is. I think it's going to tank. I just don't think it. You know, there's sellers up here, big time above that, and big time above that. If you think this is going to $3,000, then you must work at Bank of America. $3,000, just to let you know. That'd be like up here. And just to put it all in perspective here, go to that monthly chart and take a looky-poo here. So that's $3,000 up there. You really think that's going to $3,000? Okay. Then I got a place where you can get your hair cut with Miss Pelosi. She'll sit on your lap. You talk about the first thing. Anyways. Here's another great trap here. You could have bought this one too. 100 pips. Heavy buyers in that. Heavy buyers anywhere below that, this lonely wick here. My lonely wick theory. That's my book's going to be called The Lonely Wick. Lonely Wick, and how I buy supply and demand zones that don't exist. And of course, I'd be already out of this trade up into this one. I'd be short into that right now. There's my trade. I'm short into that all the way to here. I sell more here, sell more here. You know. But if I sell here, I can tell you that I'm going to take at least 10 pips off the table on some kind of pullback there, because there's no guarantee that it's going to come back to this, which would be the dream, or even back to this top where the buyers are supposed to come in, because breakout, come back to the breakout point continuation theory, you know. But this market is so vicious that some of these theories are without regard. And I noticed that ICT is about the concept, and he's got this silliness about this is a 30 to 50 pip move. I'm like, dude, this here on the weekly, like, look at this just pounding, and this is really amazing. A double bottom launching point for this, and look at this thing just cut. Are there sellers here for a couple pips? I think there's way more sellers here, which gives you this huge pullback. And then you end up with the whipsaw of like, uh-oh. And this is just such a ripe area. It's tight. It's recent. Everybody's bullish. There's too many people on the train, and a lot of people have cashed out, and it's just ridiculous. And if you had a deep enough pocket to sell into this 200 pip window, wow. And what were people telling you when you said that? I'm going to do this trade. They'd be like, are you nuts? It's in an uptrend. And even on this chart, does it not hold true? Am I just making this up? Is it just me? Where's the trend on this chart? So I'm going to say, I'd see it like this. You could say this is a trend, but I'm going to say no trend. I'm going to say trapped under the auction floor. Then we trend out of it. We trap up here. Then we trend down. Then nonsense. Under this floor now. Now we're screaming up. Big sellers up here. I'm going to sell up here. Pluck off the scalps. I'm not gonna unless I go to the 15-minute chart, right, and start chasing it. But big comeback for kind of the dollar's gonna take a little hit here, but let me go back to this. Okay. Alrighty then, this is screaming north, and look at the clock. So this looks like it's gonna take out the high of the day. Look at it's got respect for that 100 pip yard line. Okay, here's the top become a bottom on the 15. You could on the 30. You could have jumped on this trade, sure. It's classic bullshit patterns. So here's Asia breaks up, pull back. Your only chance to really get long here. Yeah, it's trending here. I wouldn't say this is a trend. This is kind of brutal. And you're hoping it takes out the high of the day, like I'm hoping the pound keeps going up. I'm along the pound. So we'll take a look at the pound. But I think that gold's had it. People are getting trapped on that. I'd buy gold if it came back to like 1500. People are locking up a lot of, man. They just got tricked into that one, didn't they? You'd have to say, because it's too fast of a move. Now, if it was a gradual, smooth move through this price level and it took off, but look how fast we got there. That's just too much. It's too far, too fast. I mean, look at this thing. Wow, just forgot about it. I think so. Let's put a fork in it. It's done. Okay, so we're still not done tanking on the pound. All right, I have to let that bake. Let that thing sit there and come back into my limits and see what happens.